In this tutorial, we'll explore how to create a voice recorder application using Python, specifically designed to suit a True Sigma's taste for precise audio recording and generation. The application allows you to record audio, generate text-to-speech audio files, and play them back. Let's dive into the code and create our own voice recorder with a touch of Sigma style. So first of all, if you want to use your custom models, you'll have to create one. In this section, you can upload voice samples to train your model. Everything else is unimportant, but you can write a description and give it some labels. Then just click on Add Voice. Next important step, we need to get your Elevenlabs API key. Click on your picture, then click on your profile. Copy your API key from here. Go to this page. The link will be in description below. Click on Try It Out and enter your API key in the field. This is so we can get the IDs from your trained models so we can use them later on. Search for your trained model. When you found them, copy the JSON file. Next, we will create a new voices.json file. Follow this structure and use your own IDs for this. So now then, let's start coding. First, let's import some packages. Remember, you first need to install them using this command. Now let's quickly go over what we will need to do. First, we will set up some global variables. Then we will check if the API key exists. We will load the API key, then load our JSON file. Record audio function. Generate audio from text function. Play and stop audio functions. And lastly, user interface. Next, we define some global variables that will be used throughout the application. These variables include output_count to keep track of generated audio files, selected_voice_ID to store the selected voice for text-to-speech generation, output_file_name to hold the name of the generated audio file, and API_key_file to store the API key required for accessing the text-to-speech API. For API key, you can either create a new text file named API-key.axt, or we will give users a prompt at the start of application. Checking API key and obtaining if necessary. To use the text-to-speech API, we need an API key. If the API key file doesn't exist, we create a window to prompt the user to enter the API key and save it in the API-key.txt file. Loading API key. After obtaining the API key, we read it from the API-key.txt file and store it in the API_key variable. Loading voices from JSON. We load the available voices for text-to-speech conversion from a voices.json file and store them in the voices variable. And next, recording audio. Now we define a function record_audio to record audio using the system's microphone. This function runs in a separate thread to avoid blocking the main application. This here means that we will use our default microphone source. Feel free to change it if you need that. This code snippet updates the text entry widget to display messages indicating the current state of the speech recognition process, including listening, when the program is actively listening for audio input, and processing, when the audio is being processed. Everything inside the try and catch blog is needed in case we get errors. Before we start with generate audio function, we first need to fetch from Elevenlabs, so we will use this URL from the documentation. I will link it in the description like always. The voice IDs will replace this section of the URL so we can use them. Generating audio from text. We define the generate_audio function to generate text-to-speech audio files based on the recognized text and the selected voice. Similar to the record_audio function, this function runs in a separate thread to prevent blocking the application. Headers are there to define which type we will accept, what we will send, and our API key. Data is what we are sending, and our set options for Elevenlabs. Feel free to play around with stability and similarity_boost, but values I'm using work best for me. Next is our response, what we get back from Elevenlabs API. If response status 200 was okay, then we create a new MP3 file named output, and with each recording we increase the number by 1. And lastly, we will show users that the audio file was generated successfully. Or in case we get an error, it will display what is exactly going wrong. Playing audio. To play the generated audio file, we define the play_audio function. It uses the pygame library to load and play the audio file. Stopping audio playback. The stop_audio function is responsible for stopping the audio playback using the pygame library. Setting up the GUI. We create the graphical user interface using the tkinter library. The GUI includes buttons for recording, generating audio, playing audio, and stopping audio. It also contains a text entry field for displaying recognized text and a drop-down menu for voice selection. Drop-down voice selection. We create a drop-down menu to select the desired voice for text-to-speech conversion. The selected voice ID is stored in the selected_voice_ID global variable. Since I'm too lazy to be bothered, I will just make the very first entry to a select a voice button that disappears after a voice was selected. We are almost there. A few more simple steps left to do. Let's tackle them quickly. This code snippet defines a function update selected voice ID that updates the selected voice ID variable based on the selected voice name. It also sets up a trace on selected voice name so that the update selected voice ID function is automatically called when the voice name changes. Recognized_text will be a global variable to store the recognized text. And lastly, we initialize our application. Again, if you haven't yet, you will have to install all the packages. Open your terminal and type in the following: pip install and then the package name. To run our application, type the following into terminal: py and then the name of the file .py. Since I have no text file for my API, the prompt is asking me for it. Just copy and paste your API key here. Now it does not look the best, but let's test it if everything works. I didn't like that our drop-down was on the bottom. Let's quickly bring that to the top. Simply cut it out and bring it under our window.title. While we're here, let's make the title better. Beautiful. I forgot to mention, since the recording takes in the default microphone input, don't forget to set that up. Hello, hello. How are you today? Impressive. We can even add more or edit in the text field, and it counts as a prompt. We got the text now. Let's test our generate audio button and play. How are you today? I love coding joke. I hate it. Great, it worked. What a beautiful voice. Now for the next step. Let's make it into executable file so we can share it with our friends. Just follow along and pip install this. Afterwards, run the following command. To not get the pesky terminal, we will write -- no console. Wait for it to compile. Since we need our API key and voices JSON in the root, drag and drop them into the dist folder. Now open the dist folder and run the application. I know my voice is very handsome, but let's test another voice as well.
Stay frosty, stay cool, and don't be a fool.